Hey everyone. In this video, I'm going to be showing you how to use classes in TypeScript. And then I'm going to be showing you how to use them in a very basic overview, and more importantly, when to use them over functions in JavaScript. So let's dive right in. So I'm going to show you how to create your own class. It's very simple. We just go here and type in class and type in whatever we want the class to be called. For this example, we're going to use person and then create some curly brackets. And we've created our own class. But how do you then call this? So you might be familiar with just functional programming in JavaScript. For instance, here we can just do new person and have this console log. This is a person. And oops. And the way we just call this is new person. You see that we're seeing this console log here. But we can't really do that with the class. And you'll see that here we are getting a red line with an error. It's saying it's not callable. And it's actually giving us a hint on how to call this correctly. So first we need to instantiate this person. And we just need to call this person and type in new and then type in new. And we've created a new instance of a person. And here, we can then just console log this out. Let me comment out this function. We can console log out person. And we'll see that it is just empty brackets. So how do we get stuff in this class and start using it to do stuff? So firstly, I'm going to talk about different components of the class, and then we can jump right into this. So first, we're going to talk about properties. Then we're going to talk about the constructor. And we're going to talk about methods. And you can see right here, this is a lot more easier to read in some cases than if you had a bunch of things within this new person. So let's talk about properties. Since we're using TypeScript, we're going to declare our properties first. So this can be things like we're going to do a name. That's going to be a string. We're going to do age. That's going to be a number. And we're going to do height. That's also going to be a number. So you can see that we're getting red lines because we haven't assigned them in the constructor yet. So how do we get them to not be red, and how do we use them? So that's where the constructor comes in. Constructor is effectively that. It constructs your class for you, and you pass in all the ingredients you want in the constructor, and anything you effectively want to use within the constructor, we're going to call it within here. It's effectively like this function. If we passed in age and so forth there, we're going to do that in the construction in this in the parameters of the construction, and then we can then call them from other methods that we'll talk about in a second. So for instance, here we need to effectively type in name, age, and declare the types as well. Age, number, and height. It's also number. And then we need to do something that's a little, seems a little unnerving or unnatural, just because you might not be used to it in functional programming, but we just need to do this, where we declare this.name as name, this.age as age, and this.height as height. And what this is doing is it's passing in that info from constructor into the this belonging to this class. So for instance, if I type in my name as Adam here, this.Adam, the value becomes the string of Adam, just like this. And you'll see now that we've declared things in our constructor, we're getting a red line in line 22 when we're instantiating our person. So here I'm just going to do this. My age is 32, and my height is around 178 centimeters. We're just going to make sure that this is in centimeters. And you'll see that we are now, one, not getting a red line anymore, and two, when we're console logging out this class, we're actually getting all the properties that we declared, which is pretty cool. And now we're going to talk about methods and how to do things with the variables and data you're bringing in through the constructor. So I think the most simple thing is just do a simple greet function. And what that does is it console logs out, hi, my name is this dot name and age years old. So now we have our very first method called greet. Now, how do we call it? So you can't really do anything unless you first instantiated this person. So we have, but and then we're console logging the whole class out, but we're still not getting this greet method. So what we can do here is actually we have this already instantiated, and we type in person, and then you type in dot. Especially with TypeScript, you'll see everything available to us. For instance, excuse me. For instance, if we just wanted to get my name, we do that. Let's comment out this console log, and let's just do console log out the person.name. You're seeing that we get my name. So how do we then call this function? And it's very easy. Just like you would call a normal function, you do person dot, and then you'll see all the different things available to us, and you'll see this greet method, and then we just call that. And you'll see that we're getting this dynamic string because we declared this person up above, and you're getting that name and that age value right here, which is pretty cool. And you can do this with you can declare different types of new person classes. For instance, let's do John. I'm John, and he's 33, and he is 1 centimeter taller than me. And then we can do John.greet. And you'll see that you're getting John as well. And this is a really cool way to show how powerful classes can be and how reusable they are. We don't have to set up anything new. All we need to do is create a new person. And this is very helpful for when you have things like customer accounts or things that have the same schema, but you need to just change 1 or 2 things within it. That we've gotten a very basic overview of the structure of a class. Let's talk about different ways to manage data and access of the data. So we have declared a few properties up here, and we've also created a method. And so there are actually different ways of making sure who can or cannot access those properties or methods. And those different ways are public, private, and protected. So everything you've seen here so far is public. And we can also make sure these are all public they're public by default, but we can also type in public here and public here. So what public means is you can just call that bit of data from outside the class. For instance, here we're calling greet and all the properties. And since we can do so log person name, and we can get that name publicly from outside of the class, like right here. But for instance, if let's say height is more private data, we want to privatize that, and let's just go public here for a sec. You'll see that we are getting height everywhere. But what if we wanted to privatize height? We're still getting it here, but if you wanted to console log height here, you'll see that we are getting a error saying height is private and accessible only within the class person. So here we can then say create a new method called get height. Here we can just console or return this dot height. Cool. And we're still getting this height error, but what if we just ran get height? And you'll see that we are getting the height of 178. Let's just make sure that this still works. You run this. Oops, we are not getting it because we are returning instead of console logging. There we go. We are now getting that height. And again, if we were to just console log person, we get the height. But if we just did, let me just get the height, you would see an error saying it's private. And you also have protected. So protected, you can do this. Again, we are getting the same issue where it's only accessible within the class and within its subclasses. So this is a new, this is another way to protect your properties and methods is by using protected. So you can only call protected from either within the class, like here, or we have a subclass that we pass through to, and we can call it from within that. So we have these different type of modifiers now. Lastly, let's talk about inheritance and how we can extend different classes into another class. So let's get rid of all of this and let's create a new class called animal. And in animal, we have a method called getInfo. And for now, let's just do this. And so let's say we're creating like a catalog of different types of animals. So we have animal. So what if we wanted to now create a class of dog that extends all the stuff that animal already comes with? So all you need to do here is just to do extends animal. And within animal, let's just give it a method of bark. Simply just console logs out woof. Cool. So now we can create a new dog, like we did with person. And you'll see that it is a normal class so far, and there's nothing wonky about it. But what if we did bark dot dog dot bark? You'll see that whoops. And now what if we tried dog and then we press in dot and we see that we have this get info already available to us, which is being extended from animal. So let's call that, and we see this is an animal. And now what if we wanted to get dynamic info about the animal? Let's say we wanted this to be the type and then give some more information about that dog. So now we can do, let's create a constructor here. And then above that constructor, let's pass in type, and that's going to be the type of animal. And then we pass in name, and that's going to be a string. And then we also declare that up here because it's TypeScript. Within here, we can do this dot type is type. This dot name is name. Cool. And now you'll see that we're actually getting a red line saying it requires 2 arguments. So let's just do bulldog and call our Lassie. Cool. So now we can make this a lot more dynamic. Call this So now, what if we wanted to only call bark, but get all that info that get info is giving us? That's where super comes in handy. Now, to really summarize super, which is kind of a weird concept at first, in a nutshell is when you have a class being constructed and extended, calling super passes up any of the things you have from the parameters into the class extending. For instance, anything we pass into the constructor of dog, we need to pass up into animal. And the way we can do that is, let's just copy paste this for now. And instead of this, we just call super and type in. You'll see that in here, we see that super wants 2 arguments also. And it's effectively the constructor for the animal class. So in here, we're just going to pass in type and name. So we were effectively just passing this to dog, which is then passing it to animal. And now we can do some really fun stuff. Let's make sure that this is typed in. Initializer. Okay, cool. I need to initialize those because we're just passing into super. Now, something cool we can do is let's not call get info. Let's just do bark, and from within, we just need to do super dot get info. Just call that, and you'll see that we are getting the same thing. And then we're also extending bark into doing woof. So let's do Great Dane. You see that Great Dane called Lassie, and it's barking. So that's how you can very easily extend classes. And this can show you how powerful classes can be when you have a very large code base and you want to keep things structured and organized. And maybe there's one class of document that you can extend to other types of documents or other types of financial models, types of customer accounts, and they all effectively are extended. So if the main thing, like for instance here, the animal, we wanted to add a new protection or a new method saying get create fun fact. And so every animal that we create here, for instance, we created a class of cat and that extended animal, they would now both have the get info as well as the create fun fact method available to them. Which is pretty cool. Now, another thing I want to talk about here is since we've been using JavaScript, there's a lot of kind of confusion about how you can create types and interfaces for classes just like you can for functions. So let me show you how to do that really quick. So the quickest way to do that is just look at what we have available here, and we can create a new interface called iAnimal. So that has a few properties. We have type. Let's just copy paste that here, and then we have get info, which is a function, but it returns nothing. So we give it a void. And while in functions, when you create a function called create like animal, for instance, you would just declare your type here, and then you would do something cool here, and so forth. Just like here, it's not assignable, blah, blah, blah. So, but for animals, excuse me, but for classes, what you need to do is implements the iAnimal interface. And now we have fully typed our class out. And while we're on the subject of creating types and classes, since we are extending dog, we can also create a interface that extends the iAnimal interface. So we can go interface iDog, and that extends iAnimal. And here we have the same things, and we have just bark, which is a void. And then again, we can just go implements iDog. And you can see, if you double click here, you can see that we're also extending the interface with iAnimal. So again, if we update anything to iAnimal and update the type here, you will see up-to-date changes in iDog because it's extending the iAnimal interface type. And then we can also do same thing for cat down here. And that is a broad overview of how to get started with classes in TypeScript. Now, hopefully this helped you get familiar with the structure as well as how you can create methods and properties and protect them the way you want. And lastly, I'm going to show you when and why you would reach for classes over functions in JavaScript. Number one, objects with shared methods. This is the first example we talked about where you have different instantiations of the same class. For instance, we have the dog that we created here. We can just create dog1 later and call this bulldog, a name of Sparky. Now we have all of the different methods that we've already created before, and then we can easily now reuse them here with the brand new data that we added. And you'll see here, we're woofing again, barking again with bulldog this time named Sparky. And this allows you to create new things, like for instance, customer accounts. If you wanted to create a CMS or e-commerce shop, this is where you create a new customer account and call it new customer. And this is where you could really see how powerful things can be in terms of scaling with shared memory and shared methods. The second reason you'd want to use classes is inheritance. Just like we talked about a little bit ago, you can extend classes to use all the kind of background and scaffolding from another class and extend that functionality to whatever you need for this new feature that you're working on. This helps keep the code very organized and very clean, and it helps you better debug things, since if something goes wrong in a new class, but everything works in the class you're extending, you can much more easily debug and see where the problem's coming from, as well as keep things very reliable and not touching anything existing and just simply extending it when you need to deviate from that functionality. The third reason is encapsulation and security, especially nowadays with how strict a lot of data privacy laws are, as it should be. It's very important for engineers to make sure that they're not accidentally leaking any sort of protected or privatized data, even to within their own repo. Now, access modifiers do a great job of allowing you to protect key bits of data from leaking out into the client side or even out into the code within the same repo. And that really helps with keeping things like bank statements or any kind of customer data or consumer data or user data to be leaked out anywhere you don't want to be. Hopefully this is a really good broad overview of how to use classes and when to reach for them. And if you are unfamiliar or kind of stuck on anything specific like super or anything else, make sure to comment below. I'll do a video just for that. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one.